Hey, shout out, folks. This is the Old Rucker with Shout Out from the Pit. And today we're having a show with a couple of friends of mine that I've known over the years. In fact, let me go and get a shout out from Josh.
Hello, everybody.
Josh was the featured guest on episode 2 and is also part of forthcoming Man Jams and what have you. So he has come to us today, and you'll see why in a minute here after we get going. But our featured guest today is Tim. Tim, give us a shout out.
Hey, I'm Tim, and I'm featured.
All right. So let me just give a little quick backstory. When I got introduced to recovery, I met a lot of fine individuals that helped me, get on my feet. This is, some years ago. And one of the guys I met was Tim. But the way I met him was kind of funny because you came up to me at a group setting and you said, "Hey, I think I know your wife." Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
Now, I don't know how you folks listen to this would, take something like that. But I was like, did you guys go to jail together or something? Because I know my wife's background. I had no idea. And I really didn't know anything about you at the time, obviously. It's just that you were really congenial. I was really uncomfortable with this whole beginning the recovery journey. Like, what am I doing here? These guys are crazy. And as I got to, following the suggestions, just keep coming back. You're one of the guys that were just always so friendly and come up, "Hey, how's it going, Bob?" And I'm like, "Gosh, man, this is a great guy." And then of course I got to know you. And then later on down the road, actually you two guys met. When do you guys want to jump in on that?
Well, yeah, I guess it wasn't too long after you came into recovery. I think it was like the first week, maybe the second week that I was there. And you started asking about, what kind of work I did. And I told you that I was in law enforcement. And the more we talked, you said, "Hey, would you be willing, I know a guy and he's former law enforcement and he's one of us. Would you be willing to talk to him?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, I guess." I mean, I had no idea what for, but I was at that point I was willing to do anything. So so that's when you texted Tim, and Tim and I met for the first time, I believe, at a Waffle House. And
That's right.
Sat down and had some coffee, and I'm sure I looked like my dog had just got run over by a truck, but that was an important and meaningful. They call it worksheet talk, but it's what I needed at the time, to be able to talk to somebody who understood a lot of the struggles that I go through. And he just shared his story. And then he let me, he let me borrow his,
Big book.
Yeah. Sorry. Thanks. And he said, "Here, if you don't have one, you can borrow this one. Just make sure I get it back." And he said, just read it, read the first 164 pages. So that's what I did. I actually took it with me I had to go out of town for the holidays, and I actually spent the majority of my time in the hotel room reading that book. So, and he pretty much, from my recollection, he was like, basically, if you're having any doubts about if you're in the right place, this will have the answers for you. And after I read that book, there was no doubt that I was right where I needed to be. So yeah.
That was pretty much my intent. People coming into the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, you're not sure if you really need to be there or not, or if you're an alcoholic or not.
Yeah.
And that's the way it was given to me. Read the first 164 pages of this book and see if you're in there. Of course, I'm all through the book.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It was a great meeting to me.
Me too. Yeah.
Because it's been my experience that there is no substance abuse in law enforcement because it's not allowed. You can't do that in law enforcement. It's not accepted. And when it does occur, it's ignored and shoved under the rug and not talked about. And it was great to see Josh come into the program. I'd been there for a little while, and I was really glad to see a kindred spirit, somebody that I could talk to, and we could, kind of mesh.
Yeah.
I was intimidated, not because of you, Tim, but when you would share, it was you don't sugarcoat stuff. And I'm not a sensitive guy, I've was in the Army for a lot of years, and I've been around the toughest of them. I was raised by Vietnam vets. But coming into this recovery thing and hearing you say the things you said, like, you're in a fight for your life. And some of those things stick in my head. Are you in a fight for your life? Or are you just playing around with this? I'm like, oh my God. Yeah. I don't even know where I'm at right now. And you're saying stuff like that. But, those are things that people need to hear. There's not a person that comes into the rooms of recovery that ought to be thinking this is an ice cream social. It can be a fun place, but you're there because of a very serious nature. Yeah. Hey, so that said, and because of the fact that, you knew my wife before I did, let's go back, a few years. Tell me a little about growing up. What was growing up like for Tim?
Well, for perspective, I guess my earliest memory of knowing your wife was probably around the first grade. She was in the same age as my next oldest sibling, my sister Susan, and they were close friends, and so I've known her since I can remember, really. But I'm the baby of 7 kids, and it was a Opie Taylor suburban, 2 parents, mom and dad in the home, lots of brothers and sisters. It was a fantastic way to grow up. I had a wonderful childhood. I was surrounded by love and had everything. We weren't rich. I don't remember big piles of money laying around, but I always had whatever I wanted, and I was spoiled rotten. I was the baby, I really was. I was spoiled for my whole childhood.
So, I met Susan, of course, and I didn't know you guys were brother and sister because Shannon and Susan are still friends today. They still go on trips together. And I had no idea you guys were brother and sister. I didn't connect the dots. And, I wouldn't say it was months, but it was definitely weeks, maybe months. I don't know. But then, Shannon tells me about this growing up with your family and just all the fun they had, so great. That's if we stopped right there, what I guess it'd be a boring podcast, but something happened. Where did you, as the spoiled youngest of 7, what set you apart? What did you, do that ended up where you're at?
In terms of substance abuse, I hear people talk a lot. I listen and talk to other alcoholics quite a bit. And I hear a lot of people say, I started drinking when I was 11, or I started drinking when I was 13, or I didn't do that, Bob. And matter of fact, I did not start drinking until sometime in my early 40s. So my teenage years, I would occasionally, we would go to a party or something like that, or an occasion, and I might have something to drink, but alcohol made me sick. I didn't like the way it made me sick. It just did. And so I didn't drink a whole lot. And all through my teen years, my 20s and 30s, I really pretty much just did not drink. What I did do, I didn't like alcohol, but I did like girls. And so I spent a lot of time with the opposite sex, and that started in adolescence. And because I was so selfish, in part because I was so selfish and been given everything I wanted, I really treated girls and young women badly. From the period of years, age 15 to age 21, I am responsible for the unwanted pregnancies of 5 different young ladies. And that's not something I'm proud about, but it is part of my story. The result of that was the serious affectation of these 5 young women that changed them, the way their lives went from then on. There were 4 abortions and 1 live birth. A baby girl when I was 17 years old who immediately went away to adoption, gone forever, never to be seen again. And I'll be real honest with you here. That's what I'm here for. I didn't give a shit about any of that. I didn't care. It wasn't me getting pregnant, and I really didn't care. There might be a young lady in high school pregnant with my child, and I would be off somewhere else spreading my pollen. I really didn't care. And so that was my first memory of really wanton selfishness, where I really didn't give a shit about anybody else. I wanted what I wanted, and I was pretty good at getting what I wanted, and so I got what I wanted. And that did not slow down for a long time. I ended up meeting a girl because when I got to be about 25, 26, I was thinking, you really ought to get married. It's time for you to get married. And so I cast about looking for a woman to marry, found a girl and married her, but I didn't let marriage have any effect on me getting what I wanted, if you know what I mean. Marriage didn't slow me down a bit.
Had you already joined the service by then? Or?
Yeah. I'm enlisted straight out of the Army, straight out of high school, I should say. I was 18 years old. I did 3 years active duty in the Army, 3 years in active reserve, but I had a plan. I went into the Army and wanted a military occupational specialty, the MOS of 95 Bravo, which is military police. I wanted to do that. I knew I wanted to be a police officer. I wanted that for a career, and so you can't be a police officer around here until you're 21. I was 18. I did a 3-year enlistment, knowing that when I bounced out, I could come home and get on the cops, and that's exactly what I did.
Okay. And so you were a police officer at 21, but you're still single, even though you're single. That's a fact.
I was single.
Okay. And so you were in law enforcement for a few years, just living in, you just shared with us some, what we call character defect, and in some cases it's called womanizing. That aside, which is in itself a challenge. However, you are doing what you set out to do. Now you're a veteran and you're in law enforcement and things are going fine. I mean, at 21 years old, Josh, you were 21 when you went in law enforcement, weren't you?
23, actually.
23. Oh, well, you went to
college
school. Right.
first, and then, yeah.
Right. Okay. I got it. Folks, you already heard that Josh was episode 2. I got to encourage you to listen to episode 2, thinking about the LA ride-along stories. I still think about those, okay? I still think about them. All right. So you're done with the Army. You're in law enforcement, 21 years old. Like you said, you didn't really start drinking until you were in your 40s. So what was life like between 21 and 40? I mean, share with us what that looked like.
I was having a blast. Being a single guy and working in law enforcement, I didn't really care what days off I had or what shift I was working. And I was working, street patrol in a uniform, that kind of thing. And that afforded the opportunity to meet all kinds of women. So I took advantage of that, full advantage. And I loved the job, and I think I was pretty good at it, and I just kind of soaked it all up. And law enforcement is not a job. It's a lifestyle, is it not?
Absolutely, yeah.
It is. It's a lifestyle, and I soaked up that lifestyle, and I really became entrenched in it. And it was part of my persona,
You had, this is going back many years, but you had shared with me that you had you were a diver with the, that doesn't sound intriguing to me. Can you, I'll let you tell us what you did, and maybe the audience can either go, wow, yeah, I'd love to do that, or they'll see my side where some of the stuff that you encountered is not something that I personally would not want to run. Can you share some of that with us?
Yeah. When I got married at age 27, she's a nice girl, but I was nothing like in love. I really didn't know. I was still a kid. I was still a child at that time, a selfish child getting what I wanted. But one of the wedding gifts she gave me was a class. So she got me arranged for me to go to a class to get certified as an open water scuba diver, something I'd always wanted to do. And that was a blast. I had a lot of fun. I really took up with that too. And I was working at an agency at that time that did not have a dive team, but that would come later on when I moved to another agency, the sheriff's office here, that had a dive team. And that was not recreational scuba diving. There's, a inland waterway that runs through this jurisdiction, the Arkansas River. And the purpose of the dive team in that agency was primarily recovery of human remains. That's what we did. For the most part, we recovered cars, we recovered boats. We occasionally rescued people, but most of the time it was recovery. That's what we did. And then working in that environment, it was that water's zero visibility, and so it's like swimming in chocolate milk. Essentially, you get in the water and go under, and it's black as a cave. And so you're working by feel. You're tethered by a rope by someone on the surface, looking for stuff on the bottom, because that's where stuff goes. Human remains go to the bottom first. Items of evidence go to the bottom, guns and that kind of thing. and cars and trucks and stolen vehicles that we would recover. So that was all done by feel, which was something that I could do. They first took me out and tested me just to see if I could do it, because there are people who can't, even scuba divers that just can't handle that environment. It was something I could do, and I was good at that too. I had a lot of success in finding all kinds of things. So that was interesting.
You got a lot of nuts. I know what the Arkansas River looks like. I've been in it. Not in it, on it. How about that? Sounds better.
Yeah.
I can't imagine you're on a mission from your superior saying, hey, we're looking for, in the worst case scenario, a body. And you're feeling around. God, that's reminiscent of that show Jaws. Remember that? That guy pulls up the boat and he's pulling that tooth.
Pops out of the
oh,
boat.
forget about it. I still got nightmares about that.
Yeah.
And you can't even see what you're doing. I mean, you must have, stones of steel, dude. I can't even picture
I don't know
that.
about balls. I'll tell you, I viewed it this way. It was a skill that I had. It was a task that needed to be done. There weren't that many people who are willing to do it, and it had to be done. And I could do it, so I did it. And, looking for human remains or searching for human remains, once that you grab the leg or you grab the arm or what have you, that means one thing, and it meant one thing to me. It means I can go to the surface and I can get the hell out and go home and take a shower. That's what it meant to me.
You know what that would have meant to me? I can go home and have a drink. A lot of drinks.
Yeah.
Well, but I wasn't drinking it.
I got it. But that would have caused me to start drinking. Wow.
I saw a lot of DWI accidents and all kinds of stuff involving, Josh will back me up on this. A lot of law enforcement calls involve substance abuse or alcohol, drugs of one kind or another, even the domestics and all kinds of calls. People say substance abuse is a victimless crime. So much of law enforcement goes back to somebody is been drinking all day or, high on drugs or one thing or another. So I don't know, alcohol and drug use really didn't have a whole lot of appeal to me. It just wasn't for me.
Tim, did you, the word desensitized comes to my brain. Do you become desensitized with a lot of the stuff that, finding human remains, coming across DWI scenes or, things like that? Do you somewhere become, what's another word, calloused? I don't know if I'm tracking with the right words I'm looking for, but what happens to the human brain as a law enforcement officer when you come across that kind of stuff? I mean, you're not drinking, so what is your escape? Well, how do you deal with that stuff? I'm
going to throw out another term to you. I don't know what Josh will think about this. The term I would use is compartmentalize.
Right.
You take the ugly stuff, the wicked things. I wasn't in law enforcement all that long, 6 or 8 years, I suppose, before I moved into an investigations position, and I was good at that. And I was working all kinds of crimes, but I guess violent crimes, murder, rape, robbery, ag assault, lots of homicides, lots of crimes of a sexual nature involving children who were the victims, ICAC crimes, the internet crimes against children, that sort of thing, where you're viewing images, and you just put that somewhere else. It's not something that you hold on to or try not to hold on to. But Bob, I'll tell you the truth. I'm sitting here right now years later. It's all still in my head. It's all still there. I don't like to look at it, but it hasn't gone anywhere and it's not going to go anywhere. There's nothing I can do about that. And the steps have taught me, if there's nothing I can do about it, I just accept it and rock on, man.
That's well put. I don't want to digress too far, but I would have to say that you did something right, compartmentalizing or what have you, because if you're okay with me saying it, you have family now that are law enforcement.
That's right.
You mentored. You want to go there?
Yeah, my son is really intelligent. He graduated from university with honors, and I messed up. Years before, and when he was a teenager, I went to pick him up when I was at work, and he got in the car with me, and we were headed home. I was just going to take him home and drop him off, and I was at work. Well, I caught a call that was an in-progress crime. It was a burglary in progress or an alarm at a business, and we were close by. I took the call. He's sitting next to me, and he's 13, 14 years old, and I told him, stay here. If something bad happens, climb over here and drive away. And I bit him with the bug. He got bit with the bug right then and there. And such an intelligent young man. I wish he had been a doctor or something, but he's in law enforcement, has been for 10 years now. He's brilliant at it. And I'm not going to tell you that it's not gratifying to see my son follow in my footsteps, so to speak. That's very gratifying. Boy, I wish he'd been something else, but
Well,
I'm proud of him.
that's a testament to you as a father. Even though we all know that we had broken compasses, moral compasses on our journey, but and not only is he an upstanding law enforcement officer based on our previous chat before we started the show, but he's also married, right?
He married a young lady who is also a law enforcement officer. She is a brilliant young lady. She's someone he met at work, and they have just given me my first grandson 8 months ago, and I'm loving it, man. I'm a grandpa, and I dig it. I try to feel the image. They assigned that name to me. I'm grandpa. I could have been Gramps or Papa or whatever. I don't know. They told me I'm grandpa, so grandpa's what I am.
We were looking at the picture earlier, and what came to our mind was little Buddha. He's such a happy little baby.
He's a cutie.
Okay, so and that's all good news. It's refreshing to not have a story that's all doom and gloom. So there's some great stuff there, and you're gosh, I don't want to belabor this, so we're gonna however you want to run the course with it. But you went to the dive school. You're with an agency. That's part of the thing you do. Gosh, you've already got a background as an investigating officer. All of that I'm impressed with. This story is not about me, but I wanted to be a police officer. I've got family that are officers. I've also got family that's still in jail. But I always had mad respect, for law enforcement, especially my own family. And it just didn't work out, so it is what it is. So I'm living vicariously, through your stories, Josh's experiences, and Josh knows this. I obviously pray for his safety like every day. He's on my list. I just, when you really get to be friends with somebody like I have with you guys, it's good to know that I'm personally not alone, because I had a broken moral compass. I don't have one today because, like you said, the steps of recovery, they taught me a lot. I learned how, I like that word you used, compartmentalize. I learned to compartmentalize a lot of my, experiences that I caused, the trauma that I caused other people, which I'm not happy about. They're still there. The steps have taught me all the way up to dealing with them, making amends where you can, yada, yada. But coming back to you, so now you're, into your 30s. Are you with, if you don't mind me asking, are you with the same wife?
Yeah, I've only been married once. We were married for 28 years.
Oh, okay.
On the day I got married, a day or two before I got married, actually, remember who you're talking to, Bob. I hit on my ex-wife's, or I hit on my wife's, my prospective wife at that time, her maid of honor.
Oh, gosh.
I hit on her. And not only did she turn me down, but she snitched me off. The woman that I was about to marry got a pretty rude awakening, and she knew some about my past. She knew I was a slut, and I was. And but that was a pretty rough way to start a marriage. And so the first couple of years of marriage were rocky. She was distant. She was cold. And it's just not certainly what I was looking for in marriage. And so in the first couple of years, since that didn't happen, I kind of took my leave and continued on with other women outside the marriage, trying to keep that a secret. And my rationale was, if nobody knows, nobody gets hurt, right? Selfish to the bone. And that rocked on for quite a while. They had me training new officers. After a while, after a few years, I was what they call field training officer, and I did that for a few years, and that was really gratifying. I enjoyed that. But I had a new officer come to ride with me. He rode along, and we would, go through a training process after he'd been through the academy and, some real life experience and that kind of thing. So I started having sex with his wife, and that was bad. And because I knew he was having sex with other women, I knew he was, and that was my rationale. See, the perfect rationale. If he's doing it, I can do it with her, right? I was a really mixed up guy. Not no moral compass, I think you said, and that was me.
Isn't it interesting how we can be so good at what we do, receive accolades, even promotions, but yet have a secret life? And even though we have that secret life, I think somewhere along the line, it's like the adage of, I use this as an example. It's not just an adage, true story. So I have kids. One of my kids did something, and I punished him for it. And he said, you don't give second chances. And of course, that same kid now is 32 years old. And I said, well, let me ask you this. Before you did it, did you know it was wrong? Well, yeah. Well, then you chose to do it, and so I'm going to punish you for it. And of course, he received his punishment. And then years later, we talk about things like that. It's like, son, I'm not raising followers. I'm raising leaders, and I do this because I want you to take charge. I don't want you to be a sheeple. If you're going to be a leader, you have two choices as a leader. You can lead somebody up a hill, or you can lead them over a cliff. I don't want you to be the latter. And I believe today he's got a great moral compass, as does his siblings. However, that doesn't mean that I was a great husband. In areas, and I share a lot of experiences that you also have, Tim. And until I get help, I've become hardened. I've become desensitized to my own sin, as we say. And if you listen to, I think it's episode 3 with the Reverend, he has a great explanation of sin, a completely different insight than I ever gave it before, and I love it. So now it's easy for me to say it. So if anybody's offended by that, I encourage you to listen to episode 3. So it's a shortfall, and it doesn't mean that it can't be overcome. And so in your case, you're leading this secret life because obviously you're not bragging about it. I mean, who in the world would do that? Look at me, I'm doing XYZ. It's just not cool. But you knew it was wrong, but you still did it. We can't help ourselves. When did you start? When did these, I'm just going to ask you straight up, did these things start adding up to the point where you got a conscience over them and you started, like you said, in your 40s, started drinking? What led to having this broken moral compass, this secret life, this dysfunctional, habitual stuff, and then getting to the drinking? How did that all happen?
Well, it's like this. When my partner found out that I was having sex with his wife, which, the truth always comes to the darkness always comes to the light, they always say. When he found out, he called my wife, who he knew. And see, he had ridden with me. We were partners, known him for years, and he knew a lot of dirt about me. He knew a lot of stuff that I would brag about, see, my sexual exploits. So when he called my wife, not only did he tell her that I was having sex with his wife, but he told my wife about every dirty thing he knew about me, because he was really angry with me, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
So the woman that I was married to, she got a whole lot of dirt all at one time. And she wasn't really crazy about me up to that point in the first place. And it was at that point when I saw that how badly I hurt that woman, and she was deeply, deeply hurt. And there was nothing I could do about it because I was as guilty as can be. There was no refuting it, That's when I decided. You mentioned sin a few minutes ago. Back then, I'm thinking, wait a minute. This is one of the big 10, the 10 commandments. Thou shalt not do that. And that was it for me. That was it for me. And I told her, look, I'm not going to do this anymore, ever again. This is wrong. I've been lying to myself. I'm not going to do this anymore. And I'd like to stay together in this marriage and work through this. And my thinking at that time was, because I was done. I genuinely was through with infidelity. I was 37, I think, at that time. And I'm not a kid anymore. And I was through. And I'm thinking, at some point, I keep my nose clean, work, do a lot of physical work, work in the marriage, work around the home, work outside the home, and try and bring home the bacon, so to speak, that at some point I'll be forgiven and things will get to be okay. And that's me trying to think I can control somebody else, which I can't do. And I didn't know that then. We were married 7 or 8 years at that time. We would continue to be married for the next 20 or so years. And during that 20-year period, she did not forgive me. And as a matter of fact, she began to develop and really nurture a deep and abiding hatred for me. The woman hated my guts. And she would tell me that she hated me on a regular basis, and she showed me that she hated me. It was very distant, very cold, very angry. She was angry. She had been hurt badly, and for those next 20 years, she really, really, really did hate me. And so by that time, I'd been in law enforcement for a longer time, and some of the stuff at work, it accumulates, So work was kind of getting to be a little bit of a drag. Home positively sucked. And so there was nowhere to go. And I'd like to sit here and tell you exactly how I became aware that alcohol was okay and would be a good medicine for me. I don't know exactly how that happened. I was working a moonlighting job at a restaurant, and I had a bar, and I went there every night to close the restaurant down and carry their receipts to the bank. That was just easy, a moonlighting job. And when I locked the doors down after the restaurant closed, all the staff, the wait staff and the bar staff would go to the bar and they would start drinking. And I watched them drink for some years. Don't know really how, but at some point I began to join them. Now I'm sort of on duty as a law enforcement officer, sort of off duty as a law enforcement officer. I'm certainly driving a police car, either marked or unmarked. And so I would go there every night. This was a gradual thing. It didn't start, on this date and I'm a drunk, but it developed over, I don't know, days, weeks, months, years, you call it, where I was drinking every time I went there, drinking to the point of intoxication, drinking to the point of drunk. I mean, I would do the function that they wanted me to do, which is essentially lock the doors, turn the alarm on, and take their bank bag to the bank, and then drive my drunk ass home in a police car. And that's a great way to not get pulled over, by the way. If you're driving a police car, you're probably not going to get pulled over.
It's convenient.
So that's how, and I just discovered that alcohol could change the way I feel, that I felt good when I was drinking, that I didn't have to think about shit at home, and I didn't have to think about shit at work. And for a little while, I was happy. And that's not a good way to start drinking. And it developed into an every night thing that I was drinking to the point of substantial intoxication. And I was driving a police car 20 miles home, every night. And that went on for a long time. And at what point alcohol took over, I really couldn't tell you. I don't know. But at some point, alcohol was driving me instead of me driving alcohol.
Yeah, I've heard you guys say, there's no pop-up signs saying, "Hey, Tim, stop." "Hey, Josh, stop." You get ready to cross this line, man, and there's no going back. There's no signs that pop up. And we might have somebody in our life that'll send us warning signals. But if we're already caught up in the dysfunctional, route, they're really, it's a choice that we're just choosing not to listen at that point. Like, yeah, whatever. I mean, you can say anything you want. It's not going to happen to me. It'll never happen to me. I don't know what you're talking about. Did you have anybody pop up and say, "Hey, Tim, we need to talk"?
I've got alcoholism in my family, as you know. Mentioned 7 brothers and sisters. I never saw either of my parents ever drink a drop. Never. In my whole life, I never saw my parents drink. All of my brothers and sisters and I have at least had problems with alcohol, and there are several alcoholics among my brothers and sisters. So I watched alcoholism in my family from the front row seat. I watched it. And so I knew that could happen, knew that maybe there was a genetic predisposition for that sort of thing. But I didn't pay attention to that. I just didn't equate it to me. That was for somebody else. Occasionally, the woman that I was married to would say to me, "Hey, you need to get your drinking under control." I don't think she really gave a shit whether I did or not, but I didn't pay any attention to her. We were living under the same roof, but apart, by that time, and I didn't pay any attention to her. And by the time she would say something like, you need to get your drinking under control, my drinking was way beyond control. There was no control.
So you don't know when you cross the line. You just obviously none of us really do. I mean, that's a given, but we did. Did this culminate finally in a divorce? And I mean, what happened? When did she finally say enough's enough, or how did that look like?
Lots of stuff happened. I was drinking and working. In April of 2012, my mother passed away. My father had been dead for several years, maybe 20 years by that time, so my parents are gone. My marriage is a wreck. Work is tough. Working the river quite a bit, doing all kinds of ugly things at work. And I woke up one morning in May of 2012, maybe 6 weeks after my mother passed away, and I began to have symptoms of a heart attack, and I knew I was having a heart attack. I was at home. It was a Monday morning, and I had worked the week previous in the detective division, was called out on that Saturday for a homicide, worked all night Saturday night, went home, went to bed, slept a couple hours, and they called me out for an incident on the river, a jumper from the bridge, and got back up, took care of that on Sunday, went to my moonlighting job on Sunday night, got real good and drunk, and when I woke up Monday morning, I was on a salary at that time. So I called my boss and said, hey, I'm not coming to work. I worked all weekend long. I want to get some of my time back. And I went out on my deck, got with a cup of coffee, smoked my first cigarette of the day, and began to have a heart attack. And I knew I was having a heart attack. My son was 18, 19, college student at that time, living at home. And I told him, he was the only one home. I told him, you're going to have to take me to the ER. I'm having a heart attack. So he did. He loaded me up and took me to the ER. And when I was there, I went into cardiac arrest and had to be resuscitated. And when I came to, they were doing a procedure on my heart and putting a stent in place. And once that stent was in place, the blockage was gone, and I felt pretty good. Well, I was ready to go home, and I wanted to go home. But they'd cut on my leg, and they told me, no, you can't go home. You're going to have to stay. And so I stayed for a couple of days in the ER, or in the cardiovascular intensive care unit. I stayed in the ICU for a few days, which was miserable to me, because I tell you what, Bob, CVICU, it's a fine place, but they don't serve cocktails. And,
Right.
I was
For the money you
jonesing.
pay in hospital bills, you
Oh man, I told them, hey, I'm not going to be able to go to sleep at all while I'm here unless I get drunk. That's the only way I go to sleep. And they gave me something, I forget, some narcotic drug that it really didn't. It was not like the whiskey I was used to. And as soon as I got out of the intensive care unit, I went home and I got drunk. That was one of the first things that I did. But that heart attack, you might think that might have been a breaking point for me in my life to wake up and say, hey, look at yourself and what are you doing to your own health and your own body. What the heart attack did was piss me off. It made me really mad. And I sat there and stewed in my own juice in that ICU. And I thought, I didn't have any kind of relationship with any kind of higher power or any spirituality or anything like that. But I was raised in a Christian home, and I had an idea of some kind of creator. And I said, look, I'm doing all this shit. I'm getting dead people out of the river. I'm working your homicides. I'm trying to take care of these children who are being victimized. And I'm living with a woman who hates my guts. Now you're going to take my health away? And I was 52. I was not old. And it pissed me off. And so once I did get out of the ICU, I went back to work. I went back to work full time, doing the same things that I'd been doing, and continued to drink just as I had been drinking before. And maybe the wheels came off the bus a little bit. I drank as much as I could because, I was on call quite a bit, and, you're limited by how much you can drink.
Darn it.
pesky rules, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Within a year, I was angry. Man, I was I was mad about everything. And it really changed my personality. I was really pissed off. I didn't care about whether she hated my guts. If she's not going to forgive me after 20 years, she's probably not going to forgive me, so to hell with her. Although we're still married and still living in the same house, I didn't really give a shit about work anymore because they're trying to kill me. So the drinking really came off the bus. And within a year, They called me in and sat me down and told me, look, we've had complaint after complaint after complaint, and it is time for you to turn your shit in and hit the door. Now, I had time invested. You know, I'd worked there long enough, 27 years in law enforcement. I had time enough that I could take and retire. And so that's exactly what I did. It was not a happy, let's have cake and punch, pat you on the back, thank you. It was turn your shit in and get out. So I turned my shit in and I got out. And, you know, I found other work, civilian work related to law enforcement, law enforcement consulting. And it was okay. It was all right, I guess. It's certainly not law enforcement. And, you know, Josh, you'll back me up on this. You're either on the job or you're not, you know, you're either in it, or you're out. And I was out.
Yeah.
That had been my persona for so long that losing that part of who I was, it rocked me, man. It rocked me. Within a year of leaving the sheriff's office, inside of a year, I would be divorced. After that, I got a shitty little apartment. I'm living by myself. I'm making it. They call it functional alcoholism. I was functional. I could go to work, but I didn't have any adult supervision anymore and no real responsibility. I wasn't on call anymore. There wasn't anybody to hide my whiskey bottles from because I was living by myself. My youngest child was 18 years old, and so I was just a loose cannon, man, and I was drinking a lot. I drank every moment that I possibly could. Sometimes at work, you know, and things just really got bad. And I can recall distinctly living in that apartment, going to a mirror with a glass in my hand, a glass of whiskey and water, that's what I drank, and holding the glass up and saying, you deserve this, you deserve it. And I did. I felt like I deserved it. I had given so much, and I'd been thrown out of everything that was important to me. I'd been thrown out of my family. I've been thrown out of my career. There was nothing for me. And so I'm 53, 54 years old, and that's when the real serious drinking began, and that continued for another couple of years.
Man, I can't help thinking that that's got to be the definition of low point, you know. What was the relationship like with your children at that time?
They had wanted nothing to do with me. I was on my own. They were old enough. My son had finished school and was working in law enforcement. He'd just started in law enforcement. My daughter was 18. She was starting college. She went out of state for her university. And so there was no relationship with children or even with my own family.
Gosh, man, it's just, I mean, I can identify, and I've, listened to so many stories that I just feel my own past, that lonely, incomprehensible demoralization.
I was really feeling sorry for myself. I was a wreck. But you know who put me there? Because I do. I didn't know then, but I know it now. That would rock on. I wanted to tell you something that's kind of a trip. I had been sued by a subordinate when I was working in law enforcement. I was in a lieutenant position, and one of my sergeants sued me. She was a female sergeant, a supervisor herself, and I was supervising supervisors at that time. She was really poor at her job, and I rode her ass. I really did. I rode her pretty hard and tried to get her to do a better job. I didn't know she was an alcoholic. She didn't share that with me. She didn't share it with anyone. I told you earlier on, there is no substance abuse in law enforcement. There's no such thing. It's not allowed. And so I had no idea she was an alcoholic. She sued me and a number of other people up the chain of command. It ended up in federal court, and there was a mistrial. The jury could not come to a decision. There was a mistrial. So I didn't have to pay her anything. She ultimately medically retired, and she went away. She is not my favorite person. So there I am in my crappy little apartment, been there for a few years, living on my own. I didn't have much of a social life, but there was Facebook. There was social media, you know?
God, yes.
And so my drunk was broadcast. I have no idea what I might have said on Facebook. I have no idea. And that's not something I really want to remember. But at some point, I'm there on a day off morning in my apartment. And I had been toying with the idea of sobriety. I've been trying to detox on my own because I was miserable, man. I was really miserable. Not eating, my health was not good. In and out of the ERs. I don't know if you played that game. Ambulance rides to the ER, so because my health was not good. So I'm trying to detox. And when I was detoxing at that time, almost immediately the shakes would start, and then the nausea, and I would puke until there was nothing left to puke. And then the retching and retch. And I could go from the bed to the couch, to the bathroom, to the bed, and so on and so forth, walking around with a little trash can in my hands to throw up in or retch into. Knock, knock, knock on my apartment door. I don't have visitors there. This is my place that I go to isolate and get drunk and sleep and occasionally eat. I don't have visitors there. There's nobody to visit me. I don't have any friends. I opened the door. You know who it was?
No.
It was the chick that sued me.
No way.
I swear to God.
Wow.
Wow. I can't wait to hear where this went.
And she said, I've been seeing you on Facebook, and I think that you might need some help. She said, I'm an alcoholic, and I'm in recovery. Let me come in and let's talk this over. So I let her come in. She's still not my favorite person. I haven't seen her in years.
Oh, my gosh.
So she came in, sat down. She made me a cup of tea, for Christ's sake. Like I drink tea. And she happened to, the place was a wreck. She happened to pick up my trash can. And she looked in there and she goes, hey, this is not puke. This is coffee grounds looking stuff. She said, this is not puke. This is blood. And I think that we probably had better go to the ER. I was a wreck. I was shaking. I was in terrible physical shape, terrible mental shape. And I was for going along with whatever she wanted to do. Went out to the car. She drove me to the ER, and I was admitted and sent to another intensive care unit. I had retched so much that I had ruptured my esophagus, and I was bleeding inside. And I would spend the next 7 days in another intensive care unit, most of it delirious or under the influence of whatever narcotic drugs they were giving me, Ativan, among others. And while I was in the ICU, this lady and her husband, who was a police officer and a friend of mine, they looked around for a rehab. And I'd been to rehabs before. I'd been to 2 or 3 rehabs before, but I'd never stayed. They found a rehab because I'll tell you, Bob, lots of rehabs, like alcohol rehabs, they're not real crazy about people who are in law enforcement. Some of those folks that are in alcohol rehabs don't like police at all. And so I didn't have a whole lot of success, I should say.
You probably weren't having any sex during this time.
Yeah.
That Freudian slip. I didn't have a whole lot of success in regular rehabs, but while I was in that ICU, this lady and her husband cast about on the internet and found a alcohol substance abuse treatment facility geared toward only combat military veterans, fire service, paramedics, and law enforcement. That's all they take.
Was that in Texas, Florida?
It was in Texas.
Yeah.
It was
Okay.
Just outside of San Antonio.
Okay.
When they rolled my ass out of that ICU in a wheelchair, that lady and her husband put me in their car and drove me to that place.
What?
Wow.
What? She goes from suing you to saving you?
She saved my life, Bob.
Oh, we're going to have to that's going to be the title of the show or something. I don't know. That's crazy.
We still talk.
Wow.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
That is so amazing.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
When I bounced out of that ICU and headed to Texas, that was November 28th, 2016. And that's my sobriety date. I haven't had a drink since.
All right, so we're going to take a break and come back to this. Wow.
That's a good breaking point.
That's a great breaking point.
Wow.
So let's take a break, get some refreshments, and we'll be back, folks. All right, well, welcome back, folks, to Shout Out from the Pit. Our guest today is Josh, which, again, is episode 2 and forthcoming episodes that have yet to be edited and posted. But our featured guest today is Tim, and we left off talking about, I guess we were transitioning into miracles. You shared with us, Tim, this former peer of yours that took you all the way to federal court, which you obviously didn't have a huge affinity for. And then turns out that the same individual comes back into your life and, as you said, saved your life. Any more you want to talk about that? What happened? She and her husband took you down to a law enforcement friendly rehab in San Antonio, and you're on the track now. You're doing great. Where did we go from there?
Well, I had been playing with sobriety for, I don't know, a year or so, and I'd been to a couple of AA meetings. My sister Susan took me to my first AA meeting, and what I went there for was to get sober. I'll read your book. If you want me to read your book, I'll read your book. Run me through these 12 steps, and then I'm cured. And
I'll get a certificate?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I'll see you later,
Okay.
But I had dabbled in the program a little bit. That lady coming to my apartment and taking care of me and seeing that I could get to somewhere that could give me some additional help. That was my first experience with the 12th step.
Carrying the message.
That's right. And I saw it in action big time in my life. Well, this rehab that I went to, it's outside San Antonio. I don't know whether to say the name of the place or not.
I don't think it matters.
It's Warrior's Heart. The name
So
of
is
the
that a
place.
shameless plug for them? Go ahead.
Well,
What is
it's
it?
Warrior's Heart. I think it's unique. They now have two different places. I believe one in North Carolina, in addition to the one in Texas. And, if you're in that field or from that background, in military background, law enforcement, public service, that place was amazing to me because I was in a 12-step program with people that I felt like were my brothers,
Absolutely.
There were no women there, but only because there weren't any women there at that time. They take men and women. The place is in a beautiful setting, and it was a place that was far away from anything. It was way out in the country outside San Antonio, and they had all sorts of things, activities, as well as counseling and 12-step work. And it was just a fantastic place to be. And in the month that I was there, the being away from alcohol for that was the first month that I'd had in years without any kind of alcohol. And my brain cleared up. My head cleared up a little bit, and I began to realize that here's an opportunity, a break for me. I'm having this break. I'm not drinking now. And if I cannot drink right now this minute, then maybe when I leave this place, I can not drink one day at a time, just like they say in the book, Now, when I got ready to leave there and come home, I was pretty nervous. I was, I won't say scared, but I was aware that I was going to go back into the same environment that I'd just come out of, and not a whole lot had changed except for my mindset. And could I do it? Could I drive past a liquor store and not stop? And there for a while, for the first few months, driving past a liquor store, that was a major milestone for me, man. I'm like, yeah, I don't have to stop at that place. Not today, I don't. And when I came home from rehab, I really immersed myself in the 12-step program. Now, leaving there, I'm coming from going to rehab. I'm coming out of a 7-day stay in the ICU. I was working full time. So I was a no-call, no-show at work for the whole week. And then I went straight to rehab for a month. I was a no-call, no-show for a month and a half. When I got back from rehab, I called the place that I was working at. It was a security firm. And I said, I've got some of your equipment. I need to come and turn it in. I've been out of town. And the supervisor there said to me, I know where you've been. I respect what you're trying to do. And you can come back to work here anytime you want.
Wow.
So I'm back in the saddle in terms of it making money. At least I can continue to support myself, which was absolutely brilliant and something that I really needed. And so I went back to work. I changed my living situation out of the apartment that I'd been in, where I'd been living alone and isolating and drinking for years. And I moved in with one of my siblings, Susan, my sister, my closest sibling.
Yeah, great lady.
Who is also alcoholic and who is also sober. And it was a no drinking environment. She was living alone, and it suited her. It suited me. It was a great move, and I continue to live with her to this day. It'll be coming up on 8 years ago.
Wow.
So that was really good.
That's about the time I met you.
That's right.
Yeah. Wow. I just connected the timeline, the dots there. Okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Well, that's all right. So while I was in rehab, they were talking about a future, and I hadn't really been thinking a whole lot about a future because when I had that heart attack, I'm 52 years old, and coming out of cardiac arrest, I'm thinking, boy, you're going to die. You're going to die any minute. And I really didn't expect to live another year following that heart attack. And then a year went by and another year, and I'm drinking heavily and not taking care of myself. And then another year and another year. And I thought, well, maybe I am not going to die. And while in rehab, they were talking about, one of the things that they talked about was an actual future. What's going to happen once you leave this place, and what are you going to do? And I began to think in terms of, hey, maybe I can build a life without alcohol, which was unheard of to me in my mind at that point. While I was there, one of the things that I decided that I was going to do when I got home, I'm going to take you back to 1977. I was 17 years old, and I was the father to a child, a little girl, born in December of 77, an unwanted pregnancy, that child gone away in adoption forever, right?
Yeah.
I decided I was going to find that child. Now, I'm a big-time detective. Been a detective for a long, long time. I know how to find people, don't I?
Exactly.
I do know how to find people. I found that baby, only she wasn't a baby anymore. She's a 39-year-old woman. And when I found her, I discovered that she was living about 20 miles away from me and had been the whole time, and that she was a college graduate, a registered nurse, a brilliant young woman with a husband, 2 children of her own. I can't really call them my grandchildren. I'm not this woman's father, although I am biologically her father. I've never been in her life, and here I am calling her up, stone cold. This is me, and I'd like to know who you are. And she invited me into her life, and that's been almost 8 years ago, and I've become a part of their family. And it's just been a real miracle of sobriety that would never have occurred had I not gotten sober.
Wow.
Yeah.
Tim, that I didn't know.
Wow.
Wow. Well, there's a lot of things you said that I didn't know. Oh, goodness.
Do you see how fortunate I am, Bob?
Oh, my gosh. You kind of stumped the chump here. Let me pass to Josh.
I'm almost speechless. Yeah. I mean, wow. You talk about those miracles, and man, I just don't even know what to say. That's just absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. I don't know how you can see that as anything but a miracle. I mean,
She's not 39 anymore. She's 46 now, and her son is in his 3rd year of college. Her daughter is in high school, and they have let me come into their life, and we have activities together. I go to their home. It's just been an incredible relationship.
wow.
Wow. So I'm trying to get focused. I have words in my head, Josh. I just can't get them into a sentence. This isn't the first time this has happened. Of course, the audience will attest to that. If you've listened to other shows, when I hear stuff like that, Tim, I'm just kind of floored, and I'm blessed. I get to live vicariously as the host of Shout Out from the Pit, through miracles like you and Josh and many others that have been on the show. And it encourages me to keep doing this. I know if I full stop right now, there are people out there hearing this and hearing the tragedies that you went through, the disasters that you've left in the wake of your infidelities and your other stuff, how a person can turn around and, God, as we understand him individually, is just waiting for us, just waiting and saying, hey, man, I want to be there to help you fix that compass. Just let me help you. Now, it ain't going to be easy. All right. Bob, Tim, Josh, it ain't going to be easy. But if you trust me, I'm going to take you places that you didn't know you could go. And that's, Tim, that's what you're telling us, man. Tell me about what your program looks like.
Okay. So when I came back from rehab, I really dove into the program head first. I started going to meetings at least once a day. I got a sponsor. I'd had sponsors before, but I lied to them, and drank anyway. I got a sponsor and began to try and genuinely work the steps for the first time. And steps 1 and 2, admitting my alcoholism, no problem there. Nobody drinks like I do, and not be an alcoholic. Admitting that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity, I'm okay with that, but I really didn't have any kind of relationship with anything like that. So step 3, becoming willing to give myself and my life and everything over to something that I can't see. That was a big stumbling block for me. Worked through that step, and I found a relationship earlier in sobriety, unlike any other relationship that I've ever had.
Oh, preach it. Let me hear it. Because that was my stumbling block, step 3, for a very long time. So let me hear your experience on that.
I don't think my higher power is like anybody else's higher power. My higher power is not some white guy with long hair, and beard, and a robe sitting on a throne in the clouds. That is not my higher power.
Makes for a good picture, though.
I'm not sure what my higher power is.
Yeah.
But I know it's something. And I know that it has moved in my life. I know it was moving in my life long before I knew that there was a higher power. I did some crazy shit in my life, Bob. And I've lived through those things for a reason. Good times, bad times, all times, everything that I've done, every experience that I've ever had has brought me right here to this moment for something. I don't really know. It's beyond my comprehension, really. But I've come to work the steps as fully as I can, work the program as fully as I can, as I've come to understand it. I spend time in prayer every morning. I spend time in meditation every day. I'll throw another shout out there. I use mindfulness meditation, and it's found you can find it on YouTube.
Oh, there's some great shows out there on
It's
that.
fantastic to me.
I listen to that too. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. My son, which tried to interrupt our call here, he didn't realize I was in a show. He's the therapist. I hadn't really heard of mindfulness until he, as a therapist, a practicing successful therapist, he was sharing the concept with me. And I'll tell you, because I'm a cynical guy, I think we all have that in common here, right? Mm-hmm. When I hear something like that, I start thinking, hubba bubba bubble gum. I'm like, I don't know, that sounds kind of weird. Yeah. And, but because it's my son, or if one of you guys would have broached me with it, then I'd be a little bit, more interested than I would if I just heard it on, mainstream media, social media or something like that. So I, too, started looking into that. And I thought, gee, I think we're doing it anyway. We just didn't have a label for it. And it makes me more aware of who I am, how I treat others, how I perceive others see me, and do I care enough to make a difference if it matters? Do you have a take on that, Josh? Because you had said that you listen to mindfulness as well.
Yeah, I guess the same Sarah Raymond. Is that? Yeah,
Sarah.
She's.
Wow.
I don't know. She's got a voice.
You turned me on to her.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
No, I started doing that a couple years ago. I stumbled on her on YouTube, and I started listening to her because I was trying to find something, because my sponsor had suggested meditation. He said, "Have you done that at all?" And I said, "Not really." I said, "I do the prayer, but not the meditation." So he said, "You need to find something that helps you." And so I found mindful movement, and other than the fact that she's just, I don't know, just something about, she's very calming. She knows how to hit those nerves and just calm you down. But I love all her stuff in like grounding and just peace, setting the day. I like to listen to her in the mornings, especially. When I first started listening, it was to help me get to sleep, and it was magical. It was magical. But now I mostly listen to her in the mornings when I'm doing my stuff, my readings and my prayers. I'll listen to her, and it just helps me to get my mind right for the day and be grounded. And so I'm kindred spirit. I'm telling you.
Josh, I remember this conversation. It's got to go back more than a year for sure. But we were comparing notes about sleeping challenges. And that's a whole nother subject and stuff we could do a show on. But you turned me on to that, and I just did a quick search, shameless plug to the mindful movement. And I remember, just like you said, I would listen to her go to sleep, and it's like, I don't remember. We had this talk. I remember.
Really cool.
I don't remember when I went to sleep, but I remember waking up and going, what? That was weird. Okay, awesome. And I do want to back up a sec to go forward. I did a quick search on the Warrior's Heart. Wow. Okay. Shameless plug to them. So two things for the audience here, and I'm going to vet these two further before I put them on my resource page. Which, by the way, folks, go to the resource page, and if there's a resource there that has helped you in your recovery journey, hit us up on the message board. I'll vet it. I have to vet it, and it's for obvious reasons. And then I'll post it. I'm going to reach out to the Warrior's Heart myself. I like what I read in brief. I can already attest to the mindful movement. So that's not difficult, but I'll do the right thing and reach out to them before I create them on the resource page, right? All right, so coming back to you. So before we, so rudely interrupted, sorry, because you hit a nerve with us on
Tim.
mindfulness.
I talk to people at Warrior's Heart annually on my sobriety date. I'll call them and talk to someone down there and just say, hey, it's me. I was there in 2016. It's my birthday. It's my sobriety date. Couldn't have done it without you, because they played their role in saving my life as well. I couldn't be sober without Warrior's Heart.
Why don't you bridge us? Reach out to them. Say you did a show with this fledgling podcast, and you'd like to do the host, myself, and you, and maybe we can do a show, not just a shameless plug for them, but it's just based on what you said, it's a fantastic resource, and I'd like to maybe entertain doing a show with them. Okay, cool. All right, so please continue.
Well, we were talking about my program. Both of you guys know my sponsor, Jeff. Mm-hmm. Jeff's been sober for about 72,000 years.
The piano player?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that guy.
Long.
Jeff,
Yeah.
Jeff's
Sorry, I
my
wasn't supposed to say
sponsor.
that.
Oh, he'll say it. He'll say he that guy cares less about his anonymity. I love that guy.
Jeff is a wonderful sponsor. We communicate every day, usually by text these days. He still works full-time. Jeff works full-time. Yeah. He's a substance abuse counselor and
Right.
a musician, professional musician.
Right.
Yeah. But he'll text me in the morning a reading of some kind, something for me to read. So that's part of my program: prayer, meditation, reading, going to meetings. These are all pillars of sobriety in Alcoholics Anonymous, and working with other alcoholics. I have been given an incredible gift. I feel, sometimes I feel undeserving. I try to feel deserving because I've been given this gift for a reason. And it might be for me to be able to share my gift with other people. Chris Christopherson did a song way back when, Why Me, Lord? I don't know why me, but Chris suggested maybe he could tell someone else what he'd been through so that they could find their way. And if I can do that, if I can say one thing to another alcoholic that means something to them, that's good enough for me. So I'm a sponsor now. I have sponsees. I try and lead other people, make suggestions to them about the program through the steps. And when you first came around, there was a lot of people said, "Hey, man, you need to sponsor Josh. That guys are just like that." It didn't happen like that. I'm sure there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
I love to go to rehab facilities around here, and the group my home group here locally, they do a commitment every month to go to some alcohol or substance abuse treatment facility every month. And so I try and make it a point to do that. And because I've been in rehab, I've been in several rehabs, and it's not a great place to be.
Right. I've seen your group on the list. So you guys are very active.
Yeah.
Our rep at our group is, I get provided a list because of the capacity that I'm in with our group. And so I see you guys on there, so I know you're very active. Your group is, and I'm sure that you just said you're part of that. I love to carry
the message to the rehab facilities. I love sponsoring people. And the fellowship, I'm 64 years old now. I've been sober almost 8 years. And while the relationship with my children has been restored, I'm in a full, loving relationship with both of my children that I raised. My daughter's 29. My son is 33. They're both beautiful people by some happy accident. I don't know, because they were raised in a dysfunctional home. That's for sure. But they're both good people. That's another great blessing of mine. The fellowship has really become my social life and the people in the fellowship. And I go to a meeting every day. Every day I'm going to go to a meeting unless something's up. If something comes up, I don't have to go to a meeting, but I want to go. I want to go to meetings. I have found relationships in the fellowship unlike any other, kind of like the relationship with my higher power. Now, I have not had some kind of crazy religious conversion. I have not had that. And people talk about having spiritual experiences. I have not seen a bush on fire. I have not seen lightning from the sky or chariots across the stars. But I definitely have had spiritual experiences, and the relationship with my higher powers becomes so important to me that you have to nurture relationships. If you're any kind of relationship, they have to be nurtured. I didn't know that for a long time, Bob. You got to take care of a relationship if you want it to grow and be healthy. And so I try and nurture and grow the relationship that I found with my higher power, whatever it is. I'm not certain what my higher power is. People call it God. God is a good word. That is a fine word. I call my higher power something because I don't know what it is, but it is something. You probably will not find me in church unless there's a funeral or a wedding. You're probably not going to see me in church. I mean, it's just not part of my bag. But
I think the important thing is when we talk about higher power, and I stress this, even though I am what they would say, denominational Christian, non-denomination Christian. I never want to be categorized as somebody that says you have to be, some kind of servant in that capacity. Because that's not what the program taught me. And I say that because, like so many people that I've met, I came in the program without a higher power. Period. I wasn't an atheist. I wasn't agnostic, but I was incredibly selfish, and I didn't realize it. Unfortunately, my previous wife also had some choice words. For you and I have a lot in common there, Tim. Unfortunately, for both of us. But to be told, you are a selfish individual, and to me, bowing up, and countering. Well, look what I've done for you. That doesn't mean that I'm not selfish. Coming into this thing called a higher power that the program teaches us in recovery is that just that we find something of our own understanding that we realize there's something bigger than us. There's something bigger than Bob out there, and I never wrapped my brain around that. And I had such a hard time, even though it said a God of our own understanding. I've heard some crazy things that people have latched onto. I couldn't identify with any of that. It took over a year for me to accept that there was something. And I went on to the other steps because I didn't want to get hung up on that. But try to go through the other steps. Try to do that and not, really ground that higher power topic. The steps, I really didn't do a good job. And I'll tell you, it led to me not sticking with the program. So it took over a year to find that higher power in my understanding and realize, hey, you are a selfish SOB. Here's why. And then step 4, which we don't have to get into now, but when we start identifying with our character defects, I could not do that. And because I wasn't ready to face them until I realized there was something bigger than me that got my back. Now at that time, it's irrelevant what my higher power was. It doesn't matter. I just had to realize, have an out of body experience, so to speak, or out of brain experience. Accept that something was bigger. And then from that perspective, now take a look at yourself. What are some things about you that probably shouldn't be there? And oh boy, that pen flowed and it wasn't pretty. And thank God, again, you said it earlier, thank God for a sponsor, because I didn't have a tribe that we call, all the guys we run around with. I didn't have anything like that because I was alone. I was a loner. I had been a loner for so long, no friends. I couldn't identify hanging out with another man. That hugging stuff was not going to work for me. Get your hands off me. This is weird. I don't swing that way. All that ridiculous stuff that went through my head. And I know you guys felt the same way. But a sponsor that I really trusted, and it took a long time because I'm not a trusting guy. I'm a cynical fool. and I'm hearing a lot of that with you, Tim, too. I mean, we can identify on so many levels. Stop, drop, and roll, Bob. You're on fire. Stop, drop, roll. Josh, Tim, you're on fire. You need a trusted buddy to put you out and to help you walk the walk. And knowing Jeff, and Josh and I know Jeff, God, what a fabulous man. What a fabulous, fabulous man. Boy, you got me on a roll there, man, when you talked about the higher power thing. Tell me about, I stole this from somebody I did a show with that's actually facing some federal time, and he reports in a couple weeks. He found his journey through all of his garbage, and he came up with these things, and he didn't even know he did it. So I helped him coin it, and so I'm going to steal it. Having a program first, the 3 Ps, having a program, then having a purpose, and then following your passion. You've alluded to that you mentioned some, I'm going to ask you to walk the dog with me for the audience here that might be starting a journey, or we can plant some seeds with them. Tell me a bit again about your program's pillars.
I'm sorry, my program.
The pillars of your program. You'd mentioned a few of them, a handful of them before I went on my roll here.
Well, there are 5 in my program: prayer,
okay,
meditation, reading, something from the big book, 12 and 12, some kind of AA related material, which my sponsor provides me with almost every day, going to meetings and working with other alcoholics. That's what I try and do.
Love it.
I try, it says in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, it says in how it works, we are not saints. Hey, Bob, I'm not a saint. I'm not, but I try to apply the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous to the way that I live at every opportunity. And the promises that are described in the program have been coming true and are coming true for me. And I'm living the best life I ever lived, man.
Okay, so you've got a program, and if we stopped right there, I think we'd be okay. But there's a lot of people that work the program that, and we know who they are. I mean, names aren't important, but we know who they are. They're working a program, but they're like I just shared earlier, I didn't have a tribe, right? And so I did the thing. I did the thing. I didn't drink. I went to, remember old Jerry? Used to say all the time, hey, if you do not know Chicago Jerry, right? Love that guy. Rest in peace, Jerry. You're a great guy. He used to say all the time to my fledgling brain, hey, Bob, just don't drink and go to meetings. If you do nothing else, just don't drink and go to meetings. And I did that until, people like you came into my life and Josh, you, and then I started building these friendships. And then I, with my higher power and my friends, I found a purpose. I think you had mentioned it earlier. One of your pillars sounds like it turned into your purpose. Am I leading the witness on this?
How do you mean?
You said now that you're a sponsor.
Working with other alcoholics. Absolutely. And it's payback, man. It's just payback. I've been given so much. People have done so much for me. I've mentioned a few of them. The people that were in the rehab that I went to, Warrior's Heart, the lady and her husband who helped me get there. And so many people in the fellowship, sponsors, so on and so forth. People have done so much for me. My higher power has done so much for me. When I came out of drunkenness into sobriety, I was bankrupt in all kinds of ways, morally, spiritually, financially, just completely a bankrupt individual. I have a purpose now. I have friends. I have my family. I have financial freedom. I don't owe anybody anything. I owe nobody nothing. And I don't think there are very many people who can say that. And I'm financially comfortable. I can live my life, and do what I want to do. But what I want to do, every day, I try to do some kind of work. I try and do something. And it may not be much. It may be mowing the grass, or it may be, mowing the grass at the place that I go to meetings. We have a little house there that needs the yard mowed, or something, some kind of physical activity, some kind of physical work. And I try and have a little fun, and I try and do something for somebody else. And if I can do those 3 things, that's a damn good day.
So hit me up on, and you've kind of said it already, but I'm actually driving this point home for the audience. So we've talked about your program, talked about your purpose. Tell me what passion means to you.
Well, family's always been really important to me, and I lived for a long time without, an outcast, thrown out of family. So having family restored and even having new family found is such a miracle. That's what really drives me. For a long time, I was a person in my family. And then after years of alcoholism, being kind of tossed aside, and now coming back into sobriety and trying to live like a decent human being, I want to be someone that my family can look up to again. So that drives me.
I love it. There's a common theme. I've done quite a bit of these shows, and I've been in the program long enough that there's a common theme. And folks, I'm going to throw this out to you. You'll hear me say it on many shows. Remap. It's just to help you with the pillars. Remap in itself just sounds like you can reorientate yourself every day, anytime during the day. You can start your life over. So remap is REMAP, and you've heard every single one of those from Tim today. Reading, exercise, doing some kind of physical stuff, meditation, which we chatted about with the mindfulness. Shameless plug to Sarah Raymond. She's definitely a source. Anonymous works. Now, you had said, working with others. Some of that you can do anonymously. Some you can't. But nonetheless, doing stuff for other people. And of course, that old adage, if there's a couple of them, if you want to feel good about yourself today, do something for somebody else, right? And we've heard plenty of times, we can't keep it if we don't give it away. Amen. And finally, prayer. So remap, reading, exercise, meditation, anonymous works or service works, and prayer. So I just wanted to, give you all a simple way to remember those pillars. So Josh, you got anything you want to add at this point?
I just say that for whoever's listening, if guys like me and Tim and Bob can do it, I'm sure a lot of you are sitting here maybe listening and thinking maybe your situation's different and maybe you're unique and they don't understand the stuff I've been through and maybe we don't know what you've been through, but I tell you, it starts with knowing that you're not alone. And I said that on that episode 2, and you say that about at the beginning of every one of your shows. But you're not alone, and there's nothing better than to be able to hear other stories and listen to the similarities and hear other people share their stories, and it's almost like they're telling you your story. And you just got to be willing to listen to that and open up your mind. And that's for me in the beginning that got me through those early days. Because I didn't think I was different, or I thought I was different from everybody else. I didn't know what I was doing in those rooms. I didn't know why I was there. I don't know these people. I just don't want to drink. But people told me, so listen. You need to listen to their stories. You need to listen to the similarities, and you might find your story somewhere in there. And I did, and that's in a lot of ways what kept me coming back. So I would just say that to anybody listening. Just remember, you're not alone, and if you can't make it to a meeting or whatever, keep listening to this podcast. If you need a rehab, well, we've got some resources for you. So you're not alone. That's it.
Yeah. Great words, Josh. And you made me think, when I came into the program, and I know I've said this before, my God, what a weight off my shoulders. And I wouldn't say it happened immediately. It took a minute to, build some trust with you people. And to know that I wasn't alone. And of course that culminates with my experiences to do this show so I can capture stories like, Josh, like yours, Tim, because it's a horrible place to be, to be alone and to find yourself in some rinky-dink place, drinking yourself in oblivion because you don't think anybody understands, nobody cares, you've ruined your life, you ruined so many people, you just want to die, and you don't have to. Tim, you shared some fantastic miracles. They do come. You shared the promises that are coming true, and they continue to come true. Friends, don't ever give up. I know you want to. Sometimes we have been there. You don't have to do it. Tim, I'm gonna ask you if you want to close this out with some thoughts, and I would ask you to consider speaking directly maybe to the law enforcement community in some of your thoughts.
Sure. if you're listening to this podcast, regardless of your background, if you're listening to this, it could be that there's something going on in your life that you feel like that there is a problem. And that problem is not something that you can take lightly. I liken my alcoholism and other substance abuse to cancer, because just like cancer, alcoholism is a disease. There is no cure for alcoholism, just like there's no cure for cancer. Sadly, alcoholism and other substance abuse can and often is deadly. So this is not a game. There is help. If you're in a place that you feel like you can't reach out to someone else in an overt way, to my brothers and sisters in law enforcement, anonymity is key to the existence of Alcoholics Anonymous. It's the second half of our name. Nobody has to know who you are. Nobody has to know where you come from. There are people who are suffering and have had similar experiences to yours, and some of those people might have something to say that you need to hear.
Well said.
Yeah. Yeah. Both Tim and Josh have given me permission. Listen, we have a message board on the website. Contact us. And if you'll just reach out to that, or you can write me at team@shoutoutfromthepit.com. And if you wanted to have a dialogue with either Josh or Tim, I'll communicate with you a little bit just to do the right thing. And then I will pass that information along to Josh or Tim or both. You decide in your message. It's okay to chat with a peer. And I know both of these men real well. They're very well grounded. I go farther than calling them acquaintances. These guys are brothers. They are friends. To the lady community that might be in law enforcement, please, we can get you. These guys can get you in touch with the right folks too. And then there's the resource board. I'm going to reach out to those other sources the other source that you mentioned, Tim. And then we'll go from there. So, folks, that's it for our show today. And it wouldn't be me if I didn't say, if nobody's told you they love you today, we love you. And I think you got it from this show and the previous shows that we're very sincere in what we do. We really care. And, with that, I just pray that you have an outstanding recovery day. This is the Old Rucker, a.k.a. Bob, vice versa, and we'll see you on the next show. Peace out.
Adios.